Now, to discuss the plight of American politics, I'm joined by Barbara Heineback, a former press officer to the wife of then Democrat President Jimmy Carter, before becoming a strategic consultant to President Bill Clinton. Barbara, welcome to the show. I'm really grateful for your time, and I've got to kick it off like this. Is Bill Clinton the best person the Democrats could have chosen to champion an empowering women forum?
Well, you could have looked for a pedophile. That might have been a little worse. But when you have a woman abuser like himself, it just makes no sense. But then it's been a day that has been so illogical from this press conference that you'd like to believe that we're looking at Comedy Hour or Saturday Night Live, but it's not. This is the real world, and that's the sadness of it all. I looked at that Go ahead, Cory.
No, I was just going to say, Barbara, you're right. We should be looking at this with sadness because politics is very important. And whilst we have political partisanship, and that's normal argy-bargy of politics, this has gone way beyond that. This is something that really discredits, I think, almost the entire American electoral system at the moment.
When I started listening to the press conference this morning, and I got up early to hear the entire thing, it reminded me of Kevin Costner's Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. Build back better. I said, maybe that's why we have 100,000, in the cast of these caravans crossing the border. One of the first questions, the press conference focused on the filibuster and, more to the point, even immigration and border control. Trump had gotten so much of that under control during his administration. The first few months, illegal crossings were down some 40 to 70%, depending on where along the border the walls started getting built. What did Biden do, and what has he said today? Over the last 64 days, he has been striking down processes and policies that Trump either put in place or he was following the laws for border control that were already on the books, but that his predecessors hadn't paid much attention to. So what we have now, there's a health hazard going on in what they were calling the cages for children. And there is, coronavirus is up substantially because it's 700% of an overflow. Biden said he will not send back children that are under the age of 18, and that most of the children that are there are single men or boys that are 16 and 17. So he's gotten a military facility in Texas or New Mexico that is going to take them, and then they can wander free. Another executive order that he struck down among his 37 was, what is it called? Release and cease and release or something like that. I'm not getting it quite right. But it means let them out of jail and then release, and then they can just go free. And they said, come back in about a year for your trial or to see, and we will determine what you're going to do. They don't know their names. They don't know where they are, where they're going to go. And they're feeding into the hands of sex slaves and all the rest. It's such a pity. And then there's also this other case of the gag order, which means that all of the various agencies down at the border that would normally have their own spokespersons being able to speak to journalists, tell them what's going on, they are not allowed to speak. They have to call Kamala Harris at the White House, and journalists are not allowed to go in and see what's actually going on. When I left America, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Barbara. I mean, the media seem to be covering up Biden's lack of cognitive ability, just like they covered up the policy achievements of Donald Trump during his term in office. Do you really think that Joe Biden actually knows what he's doing and the potential damage that he's doing to the great nation of the United States of America?
Well, one of the first flaws that he made just a few minutes into his conference today, he said, if you really want to make a point, pause, pregnant pause, and then he started glazing around and just sort of went to twilight and back. And they said, well, oh, well. And then he just took the next question. And this was supposed to be one of his emphatic points that he was going to make. So, with that, catch and release is fine, and you can have sanctuary cities. But when you look at something like Seattle, Washington, and Portland, Oregon, that have been destroyed on a daily basis since May 25th of last year, no one is saying anything in mainstream media about the destruction of American cities. And Biden is not. He doesn't have the capacity. He was fumbling through his notes today and was really fairly uncomfortable. And when he stopped and looked at his watch, like, can I get out of here now? And he still had another 20 minutes or so to go. So he did stand up for 62 minutes. And I guess the country will give him a pass because he showed up. But that's about all we can say. He appeared.
If standing up for 62 minutes is all that we can expect of the leader of the free world, I think we're in a world of trouble. But even the supporting cast there's some question marks there. I mean, Nancy Pelosi as the leader of the House and Chuck Schumer as the leader of the Senate and Kamala Harris, all of them appear not in the best frame of mind to be making prudent decisions in the long-term interests of their country.
Between the giddiness of the vice president, the age, and the lack of focus now of Nancy Pelosi, who used to be a very sharp cookie, and I remember when I had a great deal of respect for her. Now, you got to go back more than a decade for those kinds of feelings from my part to have occurred, but it's sad to see someone stay in the game beyond their time. And they're just allowing people, catch and release and the rest. And then Chuck Schumer, like you say, he hasn't had too much to say of late, but it's going to be drawn out and a slow period of time. And initially, 6 months ago, I gave Joe Biden about 2 months in before the switch would take place. And then to hear him stand there and say today, oh, yes, he plans to run again.
Yeah, it beggars belief. Barbara Heineback, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time tonight. I always appreciate your insights.
Cory. Thank you.
And, as Barbara said, it's a tragedy to see people stay there too long. It's a tragedy when people are cut down before their prime as well.